Hey guys, Abyss Entertainer here, bringing you some more entertainment from the Abyss. This is going to be my Abyss Actor deck profile. This will actually be my first deck profile, so if you like it, leave some comments in the comment section, I guess. I actually first ran this deck against my friend Moki Moki Guy, and I'd like to let him tell you a little bit of the experiences he had with this deck.
Yeah, the deck runs pretty well actually for yeah, a lot of special summoning, and then you have the one Abyss Actor where you can't negate its summon or activate spells or traps when it's summoned. So that's also very good protection for the archetype, and it's allowed to search out spell or trap Abyss Actor script from their deck once per turn. So that's also very good too.
Alright, without further ado, here's the deck profile. First off, I run 3 Sassy Rookies. The first ability, which is its monster ability, the first time it would be destroyed, it is not destroyed, whether it's attack or spell effect, which I usually get him out as soon as I can. But if it is destroyed, you can search out one level 4 or lower Abyss Actor card, and then if this is in the pendulum zone while it's also on the field, you can target one level 4 or lower monster your opponent controls and destroy it. Its pendulum effect is if an Abyss Actor I control would be destroyed, I get rid of this card and it is not destroyed. So next I run 3 Wild Hopes. Basically, the only use for him at the moment is when he's in the pendulum zone, I can make the other monster in the pendulum zone level 9 to bring out Evil Heal, which is the strongest Abyss Actor monster I have. And then its monster ability isn't that great. It gains 100 for each Abyss Actor I currently control with different names until the end of the turn. But if it's destroyed by battle, I can search the deck and add 1 Abyss Actor card from my deck to my hand. So it doesn't specify a level or anything, so the only use I have for it is to get the level 9 and search stuff from my deck. Next is Leading Lady. Personally, she's my favorite card. She has a better pendulum ability than monster ability, but I tend to use her as a monster even though her attack's abysmal. When her monster ability is, if I take damage, I make the opponent's monster lose that much attack, and then when it's destroyed, I can set an Abyss script from my deck, which most of the time I use Superstar for that, but I've rarely used it when she's destroyed. Her pendulum ability, which I guess is what she's supposed to be used for, is if I take damage, I can use her like her monster ability and add a monster and make the opponent's monster lose the damage I took, but that's only once per turn. Or I can use its effect to search out a monster with attack less than or equal to the damage that I took. Next up is Abyss Actor Superstar. Most of the time I get him out by pendulum summoning, but if I don't have the chance to do that, I will normal summon him using something that doesn't require it to be destroyed as a tribute. But its a pendulum ability is once per turn, I contribute 1 Abyss Actor monster and target 1 Abyss script spell card in my graveyard and add it to my hand. Personally, I don't put it in the pendulum zone because it's a 3 rather than a 2 like everything else. But if I'm in a pinch, it's never gonna hurt. But when it's normal summoned or special summoned, the opponent cannot act spell or trap cards, and can't be negated. So when it's summoned, it cannot be negated. And once per turn, I can set an Abyss script from my deck, and I usually choose something like Abyss script Abysstainment or Abyss script Opening Ceremony, so I can either boost my life points or start the continuous spell. I usually end up attacking with it, but other than that, I haven't really used it. Next is extras. I run 3 of them only because it's good to search out the high-level pendulums, because their pendulum abilities, if they're in the pendulum zone, I can summon it. And then when I summon it, I contribute it to put another Abyss Actor on the field. But once I use that effect, it goes to the face up in the extra deck, and I can't get it back out unless I use some sort of spell or trap. I also run Funky Comedian. Personally, I don't use any of its effects because they're garbage. But the first one is I can tribute an Abyss Actor and give the attack of that Abyss Actor to another one on the field. And then its other ability is, when it's summoned, I can make it so it can't attack, and it gives the attack that it has to any other Abyss Actor. But it does gain attack for each Abyss Actor I currently control. So that means this is the only one without the effect that it says with different names. So it's literally, if I have 5 Abyss Actors on the field, it gains 300 for each of them. And then you just give that attack to something and attack through basically anything. Next up is Trendy Understudy. I've used him once or twice. Don't usually bring him out, but it's really good, because when I Pendulum Summon a monster, I can add 1 face-up level 8 Abyss Actor Pendulum from my extra deck to my hand. And then if I have 2 Abyss Actors in my Pendulum Zone, I contribute this card and special summon 1 level 8 Abyss Actor monster from my hand or face up from the extra deck, which personally I only have 1, so I mean its effect isn't really good enough, because again its attack is only 700, so if I get attacked I'm gonna take a lot of damage, because usually you can't get it out special summoned in defense unless you Pendulum Summon, but again, it's level 2, and I don't have any level 1 Pendulum, so I can't usually Pendulum Summon it. Next is 3 Curtain Raisers. Its Pendulum ability is, if I control no monsters, I can special summon it. Never used that ability. It's a level 7 Pendulum, so I never put it in the Pendulum Zone. I usually go with a level 8, like Funky Comedian. But other than that, if I control no monsters, it gains 1100 attack, so it puts it at 22, which, I mean, there's better cards to put out, but I mean, if I have nothing, it's a level 4, so 2200 attack isn't bad. Next, I run 3 cards only because I felt like it was a good idea at the time. Run 3 Hypno Sisters. Since most people don't play pendulums nowadays, I can only get up to the second effect, so it ends up gaining 800 attack and defense. And then at the start of a damage step, if it battles a pendulum summoned monsters, I destroy that monster. Usually I don't do much with them. I usually only summon them if I have nothing else to do. I also run Tuning Magician. I really don't have much of a use for it other than the fact that it's a tuner. But if I play it, my opponent gains 400 and I lose 400. So it's kind of if I absolutely need to. Next up is Abyss Actor Evil Heal, my high attacker. I personally have never read its effect, so bear with me here. I contribute 1 Abyss Actor monster and then target 1 face-up monster my opponent controls that loses attack equal to the original attack of the tributed monster until the end of the turn. So, I mean, that's really good if I put it in the Pendulum Zone. But I need it on the field, which is why I don't play any level 1 Pendulum monsters. If it's normal or special summoned, I can target one face-up monster my opponent controls, and it loses 1,000 attack for each Abyss Actor monster I currently control until the end of the turn. When it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, I can target one Abyss Script spell card in my graveyard and set that target. So basically what it's used for is taking out monsters and then setting the Abyss Scripts that I lost. Next, I run an Archfiend Eccentric. Usually I put it in the Pendulum Zone to destroy one spell or trap, and then I keep bringing it back if there's tough monsters that I can't destroy. So I don't usually pull this when I'm dueling, so I mean, I've used it once or twice. Next up, I'm going to do the traps. I don't have very many of them because this deck doesn't run traps very well. I run 3 Abyss Actor backstage. If I have 2 Abyss Actors in my Pendulum Zone, I can add 2 Abyss Actor Pendulum monsters with different names from my deck to my extra deck face up. You can only activate 1 per turn, but the card I've actually used quite a few times. I usually put higher level monsters and stuff into my extra deck so that I can bring them out without having to tribute or anything like that. So it's also pretty good. While it's in the extra deck, you can also play Pendulum Reborn. I run 2 of them, so it brings them back from either the graveyard or the extra deck. So, and then it just leaves the field. So it's like, basically a Monster Reborn, but for Pendulum monsters. Next, I run Jar of Avarice because I sometimes get all of my Abyss Scripts into the grave and I can't get out anything to bring them back. So I just play that and put them back in my deck and then draw a card. I personally do not like this card, but I run it because Moki Moki guy, when I duel him, he tends to pull plays that I can't usually predict. To stop him from special summoning stuff, I run 1 Solemn Warning. Then I also run Echo Oscillation. This keeps me refreshing my hand and Pendulum Zones so that I get different abilities out there and change up my plays. What it does is it destroys a card in my Pendulum Zone and allows me to draw 1 card. So that extra draw could be the difference between winning or losing a duel, and I just run 1 because I don't use it very often. Next, we have the spells. I run 3 Abyss-tainments. Its effect works twice per turn. I contribute an Abyss Actor monster, and then I draw if I have okay, let me restart. I contribute an Abyss Actor, and then choose 1 Abyss Script in my graveyard and set it. Also, I can do that twice per turn. Its other effect, if it's set while I have an Abyss Actor face up in my Pendulum Zone, if my opponent destroys it, I can special summon any number of Abyss Actor Pendulums from my deck. So that's really good for the second effect, for like field wipes or anything your opponent can pull out. I run 3 Rise of the Abyss Kings. Most of the time I get it back with Abyss Tainment. Basically what it does is you target face-up cards on the field up to the number of Abyss Actors you have, with different names that are face-up, and then you destroy the cards that they have. If you control a level 7 or higher Abyss Actor monster, which is basically Evil Heal, your opponent can't activate cards or effects in response to the card's activation. So basically, you can destroy cards without them being able to stop you. If it's set and destroyed by your opponent while you have Abyss Actors face up in the extra deck, you can add 2 Abyss Actor cards or Abyss script cards with different names from your deck to your hand. That's more searching, which I don't see a problem with. Then there's Abyss Script Opening Ceremony. You gain 500 life points for each Abyss Actor monster you control. So if your field's full and you have all 5 monsters out, that's easily 2,500 life points. If it's set and it's destroyed by your opponent while you have face-up a pendulum Abyss Actors in the extra deck, you get to draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. So if you have no cards in your hand, or even 1 card in your hand, that's 4 or 5 more cards. I mean, even if you have 4 in your hands, that's another draw, and it allows you to open up more plays. Next, I got Abyss Prop Wild Wagon. The only problem with this is it's an Abyss Prop, and you can't search it out with cards that search out Abyss scripts. But while it's on the field, each time an Abyss Actor would be destroyed by battle, it's not destroyed. It works really well with Sassy Rookie, just giving him more protection, so you can get attacked 3 times with an Abyss Rookie on the fields, and it won't be destroyed until the 3rd attack. While it's face down, and your opponent destroys it, if you have a face-up Abyss Actor in your extra deck, you can return all cards your opponent controls to the hand. So basically, it's like a weak field wipe, but I mean, for what it is, it's pretty good. I run 2 Abyss Script Fantasy Magics. I usually don't run it because it requires me to attack into something, and take damage. So if I have Wild Wagon and perhaps Leading Lady, I can use both effects of Leading Lady and Wild Wagon to make this actually get full use. But when it attacks a monster, that monster gets returned to the hand at the end of the damage step. If it's set and I have face-up Abyss Actors in my extra deck, I can target 1 card my opponent controls and place it on the top of the deck. So it basically eliminates one of their draws and removes something from the field. I run a Mystical Space Typhoon because I don't have very much back row destruction, so I need something. I run Allure of Darkness because most of the monsters in this deck are dark, so if I need a draw or 2, I get it from Allure of Darkness. I also run 1 Fire Dragon's Lair, but I really don't like this card. What it does is if a Abyss monster I control destroys a monster by battle, I banish 3 monsters from their extra deck. But most of the time, people can get stuff back from the banish zone.
That's still pretty good.
Also, if it's destroyed while I have face-up Abyss Actors in my extra deck, I get to choose one of their monsters and banish it. But I also get a free peek at their extra deck. The only problem with it is you have to target an Abyss Actor. And if that Abyss Actor ends up being destroyed after you target it or whatever, this card just was a waste. I run Duelist Alliance. One of these because it's literally if I have a pendulum in the pendulum zone and I don't have any other monsters, I search my deck for the next monster and either slap it into the pendulum zone or add it to my hand. I could also do a pendulum spell or trap, but I really don't have a lot of those if I even have any. But I don't think I have any. I run 2 different field spells. I can't seem to find one of them. But one of them is found it. One of them's Yami, the other one's Dreamland. Yami is just there in case I don't have Dreamland and I need a little bit of a boost. But Dreamland is my main card. So if your opponent has a fusion on the field and one of your cards is destroyed and it's sent from your field to either the graveyard or the extra deck, you can draw one card. When they have a synchro or you have a synchro, when a monster is normal or special summoned, you can change the level by 1. You can only increase it though. With XCs, during your end phase, you destroy your opponent's monster. No, you destroy the monster on the field with the highest level. So, yeah, didn't read that one through. Alright, there's Pot of Riches. If I have stuff in my graveyard that I need to get back monsters, or even in the extra deck, and I need the draws, I return them to the deck, shuffle it, and draw 2 cards. So it's like a Pot of Greed that adds stuff to your deck. I run a Monster Reborn because sometimes my opponents pull out something that I had a tough time destroying, and I hope that they have the same problem destroying it, and I take something from their graveyard and use it, because most of the stuff in my graveyard usually aren't monsters. I run 1 Wavering Eyes. Most of the time people don't run pendulums, but I destroy my 2 pendulums, and then I inflict 500 to my opponent, and then add a pendulum from my main deck to my hand. So that's just another thing to put into the pendulum zone. Next, I have a pretty wonky extra deck, because most of the stuff is pretty weird. I have a Supreme King Dragon, Starving Venom. Basically, I just put it on the field as a 28 attacker, and then use the abilities of Hypno Sister to raise its attack and destroy pendulums if my opponent has any. Next, I run Gemnite Pearl because it's a 26 attacker. If I have nothing else to do, I'll bring that out. I run Utopia for the same reason, along with the fact that it can negate attacks. But then if it's targeted for an attack, it's destroyed immediately if it has no pendulum. Not pendulum. If it has no,
material.
Yeah. Next is Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion. I usually just bring this out and then tribute it for, the effect to bring out Supreme King Starving Venom and my Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. I run this in here. I don't know why. It's got a decent attack, and if my opponent targets a card on my field, or any card targets, I can switch the target by removing material from this. I run Dark Rebellion XE's Dragon in case I have another thing that's super hard to get rid of. I remove the 2 materials, and it gains half of its attack, and they lose half their attack, so it's basically 2,500 damage if I attack at that monster. I also have an Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. I don't use it for its effect. I use it when my opponent kaiju's on me. They usually bring out the Spider Kaiju, and I usually have Superstar on the field, so I just overlay them to bring out Absolute. I have a 1-star for all the 1-stars in there. It requires 3 level 1 monsters, but I can detach material from it and draw 1 card, and then get rid of a card in my hand and shuffle it. And last but not least, Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. It's not really as good of an effect as the one before it, but I can destroy all face-up monsters my opponent controls when it's synchro summoned. But then when it targets a monster for an attack, before damage calculation, it destroys that monster, and then I inflict damage to my opponent to the monster's attack, and then this gains that attack. If I have 2 Supreme Kings in my graveyard, I can Oh no, if I have 2 of them, I contribute them to bring out Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. Haven't used this effect because most of the time I use the other Supreme King to get this one out. So it leaves me with 1. But that's it for my deck. I've had pretty good uses with it. I really like this deck, which is why my account is named after it. But if you guys have any tips or anything about how my video went, please leave them in the comments below. This is my first upload and first deck profile, so I haven't had much practice, and I know it wasn't as good as it could be. I also think you should check out Moki Moki Guy's page. Unless you came here from there, then don't go back. Because once you come here, the Abyss takes you. See you next time.